Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest conversation with friends. And I have someone in the studio who, particularly in Australia, will not need any introduction. But for our global and maybe our New Zealand guests, I have Andrew Sabatino with me in the studio today, who is one of the directors, founders of Donor Republic, amongst many other things. But Andrew, thank you for joining us.
Lovely to be here, and thanks for inviting me on, Michelle.
I know, and we're going to go gentle with you because I know you're recovering from a bit of a cold, so your voice is a little bit sore there, and you're moving house, in the middle of moving house. Andrew, over to you. I'm not going to we don't do big introductions because I want our guests to tell us who you are. So can you just tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, and kind of why you're in the fundraising, the charity sector?
Yeah, thank you. And a big open-ended question to start with.
It sure is.
I'm Andrew Sabatino, co-founder and co-director of Donor Republic, along with Marcus Blees, who many people would know. We are into our 8th year at the moment at Donor Republic, and we work across all areas of Australia and New Zealand. We have a team of 4 or 5 in New Zealand now, which is good, and a team of about 60 odd in Australia. We work with around about 100 non-for-profits in all causes, and really big ones, medium ones, and small ones, and in all areas of fundraising. So we launched Donor Republic in 2016 because at that time I had been at Guide Dogs for about 8 years, and Marcus had been at Cerebral Palsy for about 8 years, and we used to meet at conferences all the time, and we saw this gap in the market where we really founded our guiding principles from. We saw this gap between strategy and execution, and we had led strategic frameworks in our previous non-for-profits, but then when it went into operational agencies, never did the two agree. So the operational agencies didn't have full accountability over the strategy and vice versa. And that was like our first pillar when we launched Donor Republic. The second pillar was all areas of fundraising, because when I was at Guide Dogs, again, we had an agency for direct mail, we had an agency for regular giving, we had an agency for digital, we had an agency for...
Too many cooks spoil the broth, eh?
It was just so hard to manage, and it was ineffective, and there's nothing wrong with that approach at all. There's nothing wrong with it. But I thought, well, and so did Marcus, why can't there just be one? And that's not to achieve global dominance or anything. It's more just to synergize and find the right client base that is interested in partnering. And then we only recruit fundraisers was our third pillar, because we were frustrated dealing with people that had probably migrated from PR. Again, nothing wrong with PR. I love PR. Or migrated from advertising agency backgrounds, and we kind of knew more than them. So that's a little bit about Donor Republic and what I do. And so let me know if you know more than that.
Yeah, no, that's all good. So, one of the reasons, the purposes, I guess, like yourself, of kind of establishing the fundraising nest for me was people. It's no secret that, my journey has been quite authentic. I've not got much academic background behind myself, but where I've learned the most from is people. And it's like a sponge, I think when you learn from your peers, and it's about people supporting people, much like you. It's an added kind of space to kind of complement everything else that's all the other brilliant stuff that's going on. But it's about people inspiring people at its core. So as a fundraiser, or I guess at any point through your life, is there anyone that stands out for you that was an example of inspiring you in terms of how you think and how you approach your fundraising?
Yeah, look, I suppose there's probably a journey of 3 phases for me. The first phase is probably my upbringing. I would say my grandparents migrated here, as many migrants did, with not much, in fact, nothing. And so, that was a solid foundation of just learning how to hustle. And learning how to be resourceful, learning how to maximize something with very little input, in terms of how do you make the most of something with no money. And so that, excuse me, that was probably foundational pillar of mine. Then that kind of springboarded into my mum. I'd say my mum was the biggest inspiration. She worked for non-for-profit her entire life.
Wow.
Yeah, she would always give me messaging that no matter what I was dealing with in life, there was always other people out there that needed support, and that gave me good perspective. And she made me volunteer. I remember when I was in primary school, she made me volunteer at a disability and intellectual disability charity. And it was quite confronting as like an 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old when all your other kids, all my friends were playing after school. And I'd go, there was a particular charity called the Julia Farr Centre, and that dealt with people that had severe car accidents in this particular ward of it. And then there were other wards. But I was really confronted, it was really confronting. And they, most of the time couldn't communicate. And so that was my first real, I suppose, exposure to non-for-profit world, to giving back. My mum reinforcing messaging to me that I should always be a contribution to the community.
Sounds like I'm interviewing one of my children. When they were 10, 11, they were coming to Child Cancer Foundation events with me, and they were helping. And the same, that realization that there's a whole other world out there. It's like I'm interviewing one of my children. They're like, "Oh, my mum," but beautiful.
Well, there'll be fundraisers in the future, no doubt.
Hopefully.
And I'd like to do the same for my girls, to give them some perspective. So that's probably the foundation area, number 1 and 2. Number 1, sorry, which is my grandparents and my parents. Number 2 would probably be when I moved to London, and I met a gentleman at actually an agency like Donor Republic, and he was the CEO. His name's Steve Andrews, and he was so humble and so selfless, so caring, so genuine, so kind. He didn't care about money at all. He just cared about people and doing the right thing. And he's the guy that, would be on the Greenpeace boats, and he was the guy that would be overseas, and he was just a real everyday gentleman, but had a desire and hunger that was greater and over and above anything I'd ever seen. But he had a great way of bringing people together, and he knew when to kind of step back and let them shine, but he knew when to lead as well. And I always really wanted to be like him. And, it's no surprise actually that I have wanted to be like him, and I have my own agency now, just like him. And then I suppose the third was my old CEO at Guide Dogs. Her name was Kate Teeley. She was the Telstra Businesswoman of the Year. She supported me in everything I needed to do. She pushed me to the point where I didn't think I had it in myself. She appointed me as the youngest executive at Guide Dogs, and she believed in me. And, you really need people like that.
You do. 100,
move you forward. And when my parents were saying, I think this is too big for you, she'd say to me, you can do it. You can do it, Andrew. And she was someone that, didn't really listen to what other people had to say. She just was on her path and she did her thing. And I admire that, because I can often let people's criticisms or comments impact me. So I think those 3 have been...
They're beautiful. Absolutely. I love them. I think, when you're inspired by people, I think taking bits of all these different people and bringing them into the parts that you want, there's nothing wrong with emulating your heroes, because you add your own flavor to it. And I think that's, 3 beautiful inspiration stories. Thank you, Andrew. Now we're kind of in the fundraising world. I know our fundraisers are, there's lots of things going on with AI, lots of, everyone's got too much, but this is a big question too. What do you think are the 3 priorities for anyone working in the sector, particularly in the fundraising space today?
3 priorities. And sorry, I just want to go back for 1 second, because I think I've done a disservice to a few people. I would definitely say the moment I saw Sean Triner on stage presenting, I thought, I want to be like him. Or I want to be like that. Martin Paul is an absolute inspiration to me. And then also when I met you in New Zealand, I thought, geez, there's a real individual there that's doing her own thing. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think I even maybe said that to you when I was in New Zealand at Fins. I was like, power to you.
You did, and then when we caught up in Brisbane recently. You were very, very kind, and I appreciate that. I genuinely do, because like you, we've all got our imposter insecurities. Again, I think we had a little chat about, you question what publicly is seen is often not what's inside. So thank you.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And so come back to your question. Look, it's really, again, it's a big question. So you definitely don't mess about here. I would think the first thing I believe any fundraisers should be looking at in our sector moving forward is the leadership of the charity. And so often I see young fundraisers just wanting to increase their salary by 5,000, 10,000, so they can tell their friends and they can think they get a better life. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I did it. Everybody wants to do it. I'm not criticizing that part. But what I'm saying is, look what the CEO is doing. Look what the board are doing. Look what the executive are doing. There's no doubt in my mind that without Kate Teely and a great, strong board at Guide Dogs, I wouldn't be where I'm at,
Yeah,
because they're the ones that allowed me and my team to flourish. And so,
yeah,
I think number one is do the research on the non-for-profit at leadership level, because that's going to make
yeah,
or break it for me.
yeah,
Number two is stick with something for longer than 2 to 3 years.
mhm,
I kind of look at all the people that have carved a name out for themselves in our sector, and it's been people that have had that long-term resilience
mhm.
to build something,
Yeah.
and not run away when things get tough. And I'm not saying that lightly, by the way, because there are times that
No,
you just need to move. But real change can only occur, in my opinion, sustainable long-term change can only occur within the 7 to 10 year period, 15, 20-year period. You're setting up a blueprint and a framework and a system and a culture and a legacy in that time frame. And unfortunately, in our sector, that just doesn't happen.
no, it doesn't. The churn's too high, and that is it's about the workload, it's about the pressure, it's about the culture, it's about all of these things that are impacting everyone, the fundraiser, the donor, and the reason the charities exist.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And then the third thing would be invest in yourself,
Yeah,
know yourself. Do leadership courses, do management courses, get a mentor, get a coach, take yourself on, put yourself out of your comfort zone. You might be the master of your domain in fundraising, but if you do not know how to work with people, you do not know how to reflect, you do not know how to have
yeah,
interpersonal skills, you will not get anywhere.
yeah.
Um,
Emotional intelligence is far is super important in this world.
but
Um,
it's
I'm
surprising.
going to add something onto there too, and I talk about it in some of the sessions I do. And you've got to do what you love. Like you earlier on in my career, 5 kids, um, tough times financially, took jobs that paid more. But, I can't raise money for buildings for universities, but I can raise money for children with cancer. And there's such a big difference in that when you are passionate, deeply passionate about the cause that you're working for, you'll do your best work. And so for me, I implore fundraisers to actually work for a cause that they care about.
Yeah, and often when we're interviewing at Donor Republic, I will ask some basic questions. What do you care about? And it surprises me how much how often people aren't connected to that.
Yep,
I haven't had the time to think about it. Do you have a mentor and a coach guiding you? No. Okay, so
yep,
just some basics. I think you're absolutely spot on there. When fundraising or philanthropy comes close to the heart, there's a
yep.
deeper power. And I know that, when my mum passed away with cancer a couple of years
Mhm.
ago, I was raising money and doing things I never thought I would do.
Yeah.
And that can build a resilience that people don't usually have.
Absolutely. So it's a nice segue into my next question is, what do you love the most about what you do?
What do I love the most about what I do? Um, I like building things.
Yeah.
I like creating legacy. when I did a values exercise, my number one value was fairness and equality, and my number two was, legacy and community. So, I stay true to my values. I want to be connected with people. I want to build things with people. I'm
Yeah.
probably more interested in the experiences and the input than the outcome.
Yeah.
As I get older, I'm not attached to the outcome anymore. I believe that, if you input and do it the right way, and work together as you should, then the outcome will take care of itself. I'm more interested, I know it sounds a bit cliche
No, I love it.
saying it, but I'm more interested in the journey than the destination.
Yeah, I just done an interview with Ken Burnett 2 days ago, which is coming out next week because he's about to release the third edition of Relationship Fundraising. And, it reminds me of a conversation I had with it. So when we talk about donors and how we should, look after donors and the donor journey and the donor-centric approach, all of these things over the last 40 years, when you swap that word donor for staff or members of your community, if you apply the same principles, it's exactly the same outcome, and it's the same as if you looking after the kind of journey of looking after staff or the journey of looking after donors and people the way we should is so much more enjoyable, like you said, than the actual outcome.
Yeah, you're spot on there. And I think what I have learned over the years is also I was quite obsessive, like many fundraisers, about donors,
Yeah,
donor centricity. It's born into us as a fundraiser.
yeah,
Um, and when I had Donor Republic, I was obsessed about
hmm,
client centricity. What I lost sight of, though, was my staff.
yeah,
And there's been a real shift for me. And what actually it took a millennial to say to
yeah,
me, Andrew, you're so obsessed about your clients and their
yeah,
happiness, but you've forgotten about the people that help them.
yeah,
And so that was a real eye opener for me. And I think you're spot on. And I now apply that to my family. I'm
yeah,
present with my kids, present with my wife. What do they need? What motivates them? It's the same principles. And I
yeah.
think that makes the relationship far more fulfilling.
It does. And what I thank you for sharing that. For some, you're a very predominant figure in the space. People know who you are. People know what you do. People know that your agency is results driven. It gets the results. But how humbling to hear you say, potentially at the cost of my staff at some points. I really admire that honesty, and it's so refreshing because do you know what? We don't always get shit right, and it's all right to go, do you know what? I've learned some stuff.
Yeah, well, I learn every day. And I think that is a really big superpower to continue learning. And we're now embarking on a staff engagement strategy, wellness plans,
Yeah,
development plans, putting the staff at the core of what we do, because ultimately it's them that fuel the joy and the work we do with our partners. So, um,
beautiful. I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. Um, we are coming close. It feels this has gone really quick, this conversation. We now want to know a little bit about Andrew. We know your passion and what you've done for the sector and what you continue to do for the sector. So I'm going to give you a quick this or that. 10 options, 2 options each time. First one that comes into your head. Are you ready?
sure.
Mountains or beaches?
Beaches,
Introvert or extrovert?
extrovert,
Movies or books?
movies,
Tea or coffee?
tea,
Cats or dogs?
100% dogs.
Morning bird or night owl?
Well, I used to be a night owl. I'm now a morning bird.
Do you know how many people say those exact words? And this next one might be the same. Camping or hotels?
Hotels,
Phone calls or text messages?
50-50. I don't care. If I
Oh,
pick one, I would say phone calls.
pizza or curry?
Oh, 50-50 pizza. It's in my Italian blood.
And the final one, Marmite or honey?
Honey.
Beautiful. Love it. Right, we are about to wrap up. Final question to all of my guests. Andrew, what advice would you give to your younger self that you didn't know then, but you know now?
I would say be true to yourself. Know who you are as an individual. Know what drives you. Know what your values are. Live into that, because you will have a far more fulfilled life. Often I see a lot of people doing things that aren't in alignment with their values because they don't even know what their values are. But they know that they're frustrated with themselves. They know that they're behaving poorly. They know that they're not on the right path. It's that they haven't looked at the higher vision. So understand the vision for your life, set a vision for your life, set a vision for your job, whatever it is, all areas of your life, you are in control of that. Set it, live into it. That is going to be the most fulfilling life you'll have.
Beautiful. I love that. And what kind of human do you want to be? We come in this world with nothing and we leave with nothing. What you do in between matters.
Absolutely. Yep.
Andrew, it has been an absolute delight. It's so great to reconnect with you, and I look forward to carrying on conversations and hopefully involving your community and your staff and Donor Republic with the fundraising nest. This has been Conversation with Friends with Andrew Sabatino. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Michelle, and congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.